Um, you didn't realize we're live. I'm Rhone. I don't like to tell people, so don't be scared. I'm just setting up the YouTube. Hello, everyone. I don't know if anyone's here. Hello, my favorite people. Who's that? Maidan Rajway.
Oh. Anybody know her?
Nope.
Hello. Ivan's here. I'm just fixing my windows, everyone, and then we can start the show. 50 people, so many. I love it. There's me, Rachel, Sam, done. Oh, look, see, this is what I want to see. I want to see scrolls of people. Let's pick up. Hello, everyone. My name's Nick. Welcome to Wine Coach at Home. For those tuning in for the first time, I'm the sommelier at Peter Pan, and I do these weekly shows where we have a theme, taste some wines. I have some friends, colleagues, people I respect on to taste with me. You get to sit in your sweatpants and not be on screen, but that's how I want it. I don't want to see anyone. Welcome to Syrah, our journey through Northern Rhone. It's going to be super fun and interesting. I want to say I can't remember the last time or if I've ever done this kind of lineup before, but I feel like I have, but many years ago, and I don't think it was as haphazardly put together as the one we have in front of us, but it's going to be a lot of fun. But always I have two people, or I have people with me this week. I have decided to bring the last two friends I have. He once, well, I'll introduce them. He once taught me at Song Factory. He is a dear friend, someone I respect dearly. Sam Mallinson, welcome to Wine Coach. Finally, you're on screen. I'm very excited.
I mean, this is the nicest thing you've ever said to me, so thank you.
Well,
About me, actually, so I'm kind of disappointed.
It's recorded on YouTube, so you'll have
perfect.
More.
I'm gonna rack up all the views after this.
Yeah, why not? Thank you very much. How was your day, Sam? Was everything?
Well, it was great. I saw you very briefly when I went and picked up these wines, which was really nice. But yeah, it was nice. It was nice to have like a nice mild day finally.
Yeah, it was great. It was wet, but it was fun and warm. Yeah. And the other person on the screen in front of you, a dear friend, someone who I respect dearly, who makes amazing wines. Well, family makes amazing wines, and who I always like having a heated discussion about. So we'll see what we turn out today. Jacob Lipinski, welcome to the stage. How are you today?
Pretty good. Yeah, long day of filtering, but
you have a beautiful
in my beautiful temporary home for the next 3 days.
Jacob, for those who, well, none of you know, Jacob is filtering wine at in Orangeville and is in a temporary hotel room overnight while he does it. So that's why he has what appears to be a curtain on a wall without a window behind it. So he's going to have a great, 3 days.
Oh,
yay! There's a window. Wonderful.
Looks out on the bins.
Yeah.
The parking lot.
And as always, our secret Tom on the chat. She will never be seen or heard. Rachel Picard. Hello, Rachel. No, she will be one day. We've negotiated her session that she wants to do, and she will be doing it. It's going to be a 4-hour lecture on wine law. It's going to be a lot of fun. No wine. We're just going to talk about wine law. No, that's a line. But she will be on soon enough, and you'll all get to see her, and we'll find another secret song to swap her out. But thank you all for coming. Obviously very popular because it's Syrah, so let's get into it. wines are in front of you, I hope. Why Syrah? Sam, tell me, why do you love Syrah? A really easy
I mean, yeah. I mean, what's not to love? No, you know what? I think for me, maybe the like simplest way to describe it is, I'm not surprised when wine tastes like fruit because it comes from fruit. But I don't know. There's something magical about Syrah because it can smell like bacon fat and pastrami and cured meat and black olives and all these like really kind of animal things. And I don't know. I still don't understand how grapes, through the magic of fermentation, create something that's so captivating. But yeah, that's why I like Syrah.
I like that your first Syrah, you said, I like wine that tastes like fruit, and I love Syrah because it tastes like bacon fat. I think that's a really extremely clear description of Syrah for the people who are tuning in for the first time.
No, I just like, of course, wine is going to taste like fruit. It comes from fruit, but I find it so exciting when wine tastes like something else, and Syrah does that most of the time. So.
Absolutely, I agree. Absolutely, I these like unique tertiary character, like these secondary characteristics and flavors that you really don't find a lot or in that much abundance in other wines. It's something that always captivates me. Jake, when you think Syrah, what do you value more? Do you think like where it comes from or the winemaking? As someone who has a lot of influence in winemaking, I'm curious as to your your insight.
I've been on the winemaking side more and more lately, just because I find that I have producers that I follow as opposed to regions that I follow. I feel like I could take some great producers from the Northern Rhone or from wherever, transplant them into another region that has a similar growing conditions, and they can probably make something magical there as well. So I'm leaning more towards winemaking. I'm unfortunately I'm biased, but I like interesting wines, and I find that the winemaking techniques are what usually gives me that.
So I'm glad we're doing a tour of appellations. No, I'm kidding. But look, that's like when I put this lineup together, it was, let's taste these appellations. We never get to see them side by side. And it was over like the weeks preceding this is I was unsure whether the appellation characteristic would really show through. And I then decided more to focus on winemaking. And I think what I really want everyone watching to come away with is like, we'll talk about the winemaking, we'll talk about how these wines are being made so that the wines that you sort of align with and that you really enjoy, you'll know what questions to ask to sort of be able to find wines that are similar, if not the same to that. So if you like, wine number 3, you can, that you can go to a wine shop and say, okay, so what wines, what Syrahs do you have that use old cluster or use cement vats or use old wood, and all of these like key questions. And I think that's kind of my aim tonight, is to like give you those tools to say, oh, great, I really like Syrah. I like this style of Syrah. This is how I get to that, so that you're not just trying to memorize producers because you're normal people. That's not what normal people do. But instead have a set of questions that you can ask people who know more about the every winemaker that they have on the shelf. So that's kind of where I want to go, but we'll see how it plays out. Chris and Paul were asking, they were like, Sam is sitting behind the same bar that the person last week was. Yeah. I didn't realize.
It's actually just a green screen.
It's a green screen. It's a background of a kid, a lucky cat doing this that I send back. But yes, he is sitting behind the same thing. I'm not going to explain why. That's just the journey of self-discovery, journey of self-discovery for all of you to find out why Sam is saying, sitting in front of the stage. But it's gonna be fun. Anyway, we've been talking for 10 minutes. We haven't drunk any wine, so let's drink some wine. Wine number one. I'm gonna put it on the screen, and every time I forget where I've put the fucking sheet. Here it is. Sam, tell me what is your thoughts, impressions, your feelings about wine number one, which is Christine chart to everyone. 2017 Levet Amethyst Parati.
Yeah, so my first thought is why you wanted to do Cote Rôtie first.
North Star. Well, actually, no. I mean, the reason I did is because number 4 is the most expensive one, and I wasn't going to do South or North and lead with the most.
Sure.
You gotta know showmanship. You gotta end with a bang.
Yeah, well, I'll just quickly say for those of you who aren't that familiar, I mean, Cote Rôtie is what I consider to be one of the 2, possibly 3 prestige appellations in the Northern Rhone. So it's super high quality Syrah. It's coming from the very north, as Nick is highlighting. You're actually allowed a little bit of Viognier, but this is purely Syrah, I think. I think it's 100%.
Wow.
And
no Viognier on this one.
no Viognier, even though you're allowed to blend in and co-ferment a bit. But look, I really like the wines from Domaine Levet, but I do find they're pretty tight when they're young. This is nice. It's showing a little bit of fruit, but in my personal experience, these wines always show better the day after you open them or 2 days down the road, which I think probably means that they're going to age pretty well. But it is it's a dense little number.
Jake, your feelings, your thoughts, your opinions?
I find it very concentrated and very ripe. It is, I don't know if it's just my nose today, but there's a lot going on. And I don't know if I would guess it was Syrah immediately. Like I don't get that typical black pepper smoked meat character. Like there's a lot of other characters going on, but for me, this doesn't scream Syrah.
Well, it's serene, so well, I like all these easy passes you're giving me. So this is not the reason why I put it on the list or put it in the lineup, but one of the fun things about this wine is that it's serene, which is a biotype of Syrah. So biotypes are like distinct like variations of a grape. So Nebbiolo has different biotypes. I don't know how many. This is not the game we play, but they look different. They taste slightly different. They grow slightly different, but genetically they're the same grape. And this is a little weird example of serene. It's not important. Like it's important and it's interesting. I don't think you need to take away finding with this urge to find serene. But it's an interesting kind of thing because Syrah and serene, they have a really old history going like in the really ancient styles of Syrah and back in the like hundreds of years ago in the Northern Rhone, they have a really traditional sort of place there. So it's fun to sort of taste through it, and it's a big wine.
Yeah, and just to add to that serene thing, like a lot of people would consider it to be kind of the old Syrah or the original kind of Syrah. And I know that Levet has been pretty careful. Like they don't buy any fruit from any nurseries. They don't, they've never bought any vine material. They just do mass cell selection. They only want to keep that classic biotype that they have in their vineyards to kind of keep the style. But
I hope someone asks, what's mass cell selection? And in the chat so that Rachel can fervently type an essay as to what that is. But essentially, master selection is just a way of planting a vineyard. So when you plant a vineyard, you basically have two main principles. It's clonal selection, where you select one genetically identical plant and you plant that throughout the vineyard, and you get a very distinct, consistent product. Mouth-style selection is essentially where you replant a vineyard, and you get like plants that have slightly different characteristics to one another. That's all I'm going to say. I don't need to. Jake, do you like this one? For someone who doesn't like, well, who said it doesn't really taste like Syrah, like, are you?
Enjoy it. If I were to order it at a restaurant, I don't know if this is what I would expect from a Syrah. What's the alcohol on it, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I forgot to bring the bottles with me. That's a bad thing. I don't know, 13.5. Let me look it up. Rachel did go get it. Rachel, you can find it. Oh, 13.5. Okay, great. See, that's how good I am. Yeah. The other thing with Cote Rôtie, and like, if you ever want to explore it, like, I find there's an influence of Burgundy, and like Beaujolais is like really close. They're not very far apart, and like you sometimes get this kind of like transition with Syrahs that kind of feel like a little Pinot Noir-y. I don't know. It's just this weird little. You don't see a lot of it, and they're all very age-worthy. But I like this one. It's delicious.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it has much more to show down the road than it's currently offering. I mean, there's such a density of fruit there, and there's great length on the palate, but I think it needs a bit of bottle age to kind of be a bit more expressive and show up a bit more. But a pretty banging start, I have to be honest. A pretty concentrated wine for the first wine of the night.
Look, for people who aren't super familiar with Syrah, this is a word you'll hear a lot. There's like concentration and density. Like Syrah sort of has this ability to like be partly the flavors, and it feels like you are having this like bouillon cube intensity kind of flavor. And when we say age, what we're looking for is that density to sort of unfurl, and you start getting like being able to sort of perceive the flavors much more, and it's not just hitting you in the face all at once. Is that a good characterization, Jake? I don't know how you sort of characterize age worthiness in Syrah.
For me, for Syrah, I usually focus on acid and concentration of flavor. Those are the two things that will give it its life. But a lot of producers I'm noticing are also beefing up their wines with some newer oak. Like if you have Chabert Hermitage, he uses a lot of new oak in his wines, and they just add another dimension to the wine and also increase their lifespan. So, yeah.
And I think in terms of winemaking, this style, correct me if I'm wrong, because I was only briefly reading it this morning. It's like a little bit of, it's all neutral oak, the amethyst, and it has a little bit of like new oak rotated through.
Yeah, what I tracked down, because the domain only makes 3 wines, and the amethyst is kind of their blend of all their vineyards or their parcels, and then they have two that are different. But I mean, it spends quite a bit of time. It spends 3 years in barrel, but it's like first year in large barrels in foudre, so like 1,000, 1,200, 15 liters, something like that, 1,500 liter, and then second year in demi-muid, so 600 liter barrels, which about 10% are new, and then third year in like all neutral but a variation of sizes. So he does.
I get that, like the acid's there, but it's not like bracing, and it's not like attacking your very soul, which sometimes you can get with like Syrah, because it is a high acid red, and that's kind of what defines it in terms of the structure of like what it can bring. Which is, as an aside, why they sort of started growing it in Australia, because you get all this ripeness and alcohol, but you needed that acidic backbone to keep it drinkable. But you can see that acid is kind of nice and round and has this like soft, not soft edge, but like a rounded edge. It's not so jagged as I thought. Finished with last, so that's a good start. I mean, that's the Australian in me, just slurping up Shiraz.
Next wine's from Riverina, right?
Sorry?
The next wine's from Riverina?
Yeah. We go straight to Riverina, then Barossa, and then we're back to Cornas, which is, I mean, I don't know if you saw the map. You all must have seen the map. That's exactly what it looks like. And what I should have done, and I apologize, Rachel, I should have got your map that you beautifully made and posted on Instagram on her Past Wine podcast Instagram, so you should follow that, because that was a much better map than this Wine Poly one.
I watched that like 10 times.
Yeah, I know, it's cool. It was very
great.
It was like, you look and you're like, oh, the writing, and then you're like, the highlighter action, and then you're like, oh, the play. It was amazing.
The tunes.
The tunes. Wine number 2. I like this wine. This was the one that when at first I opened it, it like was drinkable. I was like, this is delicious. Yum, yum, yum. And it's like purple.
It is purple. You could convince me this is Australian Shiraz.
Jacob, tell me about this wine. What's your feelings? What are your impressions? Love, hate, love.
Love. I find it very interesting and meaty and savory, and all the things I look for in Syrah are in this glass. So no, it was surprising. But on top of that meatiness, there is a florality, a lift to it as well. So it's I'd be curious to find out how the wine was made.
You talk. Sam, you talk. I'm just going to show the map. I'm showing the map. Let's
when you ask that question, Jacob, is that a stem inclusion or a whole cluster question?
It's a it's a really long appellation.
Yeah. So from what I could find, depending on the vintage, it's typically 35 to 70% whole cluster.
It shows. We've been doing whole cluster carbonic with the majority of our wines now, and it just adds another dimension to the wine that we're really enjoying.
Yeah, that mix of that kind of purple flower and then that kind of almost herbaceous kind of twiggy quality. That's really, because there's a lot of fruit in the wine, but it's really nicely balanced by that kind of lift and the kind of slightly herbal quality.
Any counterpoint to what the Levay that we were tasting, like, let's discuss its like drinkability. Like, I find this one much more drinkable and still concentrated and still lots of flavor and lots of different things going on in my brain. But like, I'm not a big, as we all know, I hate the idea of telling people that they can't drink a wine whenever they want. But this is a wine that you can drink whenever you want, because I think this is super delicious.
Yeah, for me, it's more open and expressive and approachable than the first wine. I think hedonism's a pretty good word for it. Like, I just want to, hang out in a toga and drink this out of a jug.
Very, very, very easy to drink.
Yeah. I've not had a lot of Lionel Forey's wines, but I know it by reputation, and like, it is a really, it's a solid producer, kind of likes to do things a little wild, but like super delish. And like, he does the Colin Rodinets. I didn't pronounce that right. which is like a step below, which is a really nice, delicious Syrah. But I don't know. This is delish.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning, like the first wine, the Levay, like they only make wine in Côte Rôtie. They make, I don't know, 1,000 cases a year or whatever, tiny production. That's all they have. Whereas with the Foree, they have like 10 hectares in Saint Joseph alone. So they're able to make a bit more, and they're kind of, I think of them as one of the kind of like 1B producers of Saint Joseph, like kind of almost flag bearer, but not quite. It's delicious.
What do you look? What do we look for when you think Saint Joseph? Because I mean, it's a big region in terms of Northern Rhone. Like, is there a variety of winemaking styles? Is there like how do we help people but how do you convince people to buy Saint Joseph? That's my question.
For me, it's two things. Typically, the price of Saint Joseph is a lot more comfortable than the price of Hermitage or Cornas or Côte Rôtie. The second thing is, I'll go back to what Jake said right off the top, which is producer. Because Saint Joseph is so big, and if you have that map up again, or if Rachel wants to show her map, I mean, it stretches
that organized, but
halfway from Condria or through Condria all the way down to Saint-Péray. So there's a lot of variability in the appellations. So I think typically if you're drinking, Guenon or Chaves, Domaine, Saint Joseph, or Foree, or producers like that, you're getting killer value. I mean, there's other people that do great stuff, like the Van de Vienne crew and the individual winemakers within it. But yeah, I think it's kind of, if it seems too affordable to be true, then it's probably not going to compete with Côte Rôtie or Cornas or Hermitage.
Jacob, I'm going to regret asking this question, but let's talk about whole cluster. Sorry. Let's give the Cliff Notes version. Like, let's the 1 minute pitch to explain to people what whole cluster is, because I mean it's prevalent in a lot of winemaking, from Pinot Noir to Gamay, but like I don't know, it's at its home in Syrah, I think, at its best expression. Not I guess what whole cluster is, but how is it expressed in the glass? I think that's the thing that I always forget, and I probably assume that a lot of people don't get. So if you could, like, what's about this wine that suggests whole cluster?
And also there is a twiggy, stemmy, slightly green greenness to the wine on top of the ripeness and the florality. So that suggests that some stems were included. But I find with doing carbonic fermentation, it gives the wine a lot more life, a lot more vibrancy. It smells more fruity and floral and even confectionery in some wines. So we've found a lot of success with it. And actually, we do, as you know, Appassimento wines. And even with Appassimento wines, you lose a lot of primary fruit. You lose a lot of that freshness because you dry the grapes. So doing carbonic fermentation after doing Appassimento just brings the wine back to life. So we've been doing it with reds. Now we're doing it with whites. And actually, all of our wines are now carbonic.
I didn't know. I didn't introduce you properly, and I apologize. But Jacob, his family makes Big Head wines based on Niagara-on-the-Lake, and famous for their raw Syrah in certain circles. Like this big, but it's a good circle, it's a solid circle. So for those who are curious as to why he's talking about the wines that he makes, that's the winery that he's talking about. And if you haven't been there, you need to. I mean, obviously not now; they're closed, and maybe not open. I don't understand COVID, but
But if you haven't had the Syrah, get the fucking Syrah and drink it.
Get the fucking Syrah. No, and that's a very good point. In that, like, you know, Big Head is the one place I always suggest people to go when they can to do their tasting experience, because it's hands down the best tasting experience I've ever had in my life. Where you taste every wine and you taste it for what it's worth, for what it is in the glass, and not what your preconceptions think, what you're told to think about what it is. And I think it's a truly great experience, and that, for those who aren't sommeliers, does mimic what kind of how we approach, like how we should always approach wines. Is you should taste them without perhaps knowing what's in the, like who makes it and what's in the, you know, what the grape is and what the price point is. You do just see the wine naked sort of in the glass, which I think is a great experience. So if you haven't bought and tasted Big Head, please do. If you haven't been down there, or if you are planning in the future a visit to Niagara, please go to Big Head and do their, like, what's it called, the tasting, the big one?
Thing, it's our blind seated tasting.
Yeah, that's such a non-spinny term, blind seated testing.
The biggest tasting.
Yeah, and please, to give Jacob's probably a very long day, so if you could all shout out in the comments about how much you love his wines, I think that will give him, lift his mood as much as his hair. I really like this wine, and we got off topic.
Sorry, just quickly, Nick, how much is this in your shop?
It's all sold out. So that's
Oh,
Thanks.
I think Rob Miller bought the last bottle, and I checked in with Barrel Selects, who brings it in. Shout out to Dawn if you ever see this on YouTube. And it's all gone. But I think it's a really great wine, and like this is probably, I think this was about $40 something for me, so it'd be like I'd sell it for about 60. But their Colin Rodinez is like, I don't know, low 30s or mid 30s. Like,
Yeah.
get it in ya. Hopefully there's more of it. If I can get it in, I'll get it in, because I think it's a solid example of Northern Rhone. That's drinkable, that like is a good entry point if you like Syrah and you want a little step up, you want to impress your parents, you want to impress your mailman, I don't know, mail person, do whatever you want, but it's delicious.
I gotta start delivering mail. Apparently, that's a sweet gig.
Yeah, if you aren't giving your mail person like abundance of like presents to thank them for doing what they do, then I don't know, do better. Mail person.
Mail or mail press. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So yeah, I think this is a really great example of whole cluster. And if this is your style that you like, that kind of like lift, perfume, round, juiciness, ask for whole cluster, ask for stem inclusion. This is what you need to ask. Because that's the way you get what you want. And there's a lot of different winemaking in Syrah, and there's a lot of people who do it. But that's a very easy, it's a very normal question to ask if you went into a wine shop, not the LTV obviously, because they wouldn't understand what you're saying. But if you went into a real wine shop and said, or a restaurant, and you said, "Hey, I want a Syrah. I love stem inclusion. I love whole cluster. Give me something like that." You should be able to. That should be very deliverable.
Yeah. Sorry, Nick, just to round this out, I would say this is on the upper side of deliciousness that you see in Saint Joseph. Like, I don't want people all of a sudden being like, "Holy shit, I got to go buy out all the Saint Joseph in the world." This again comes back to a great winemaker who's doing great stuff. So.
And it lends to the argument that like winemaking is a better, it's better to ask about winemaking than it is to like focus on an appellation. I think appellations are really good to like compartmentalize Syrah and the Northern Rhone, but like you've got to move past that and go into winemaking and ask these key questions, because I think that's where you're going to get what you want, because there is a variety of styles, there is a spectrum, and I don't want you thinking that also Joseph is like this. And likewise, you shouldn't think that all Cote Rôtie doesn't, like there aren't Cote Rôtie producers that use stem inclusion and that have this like buoyant kind of floral, energetic kind of thing. You know, you can make it all in any place. Let's go to one of the three. I keep forgetting how cold my ones are and I need to warm them up. I'm down to put it on the screen. So Sam, you said that you were most intrigued by this one, or you were most excited about this one.
Well, yeah, I mean, for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not super familiar with the producer. And two, I was a little bit excited. Look, a bit like Saint Joseph, I love Northern Rhone Syrah. There's a lot of Croz's Hermitage that just is a little bit simple. It tastes kind of like good Gamay with a little bit of pepper or something, which I love. But Croz's Hermitage is also big, and where are you in the appellation? And I was excited to hear about this producer because this wine specifically comes from that 1 hectare vineyard they have on this crazy steep south-facing hillside. It basically faces the exact same way as the hill of Hermitage, but just like a kilometer or two behind it. So yeah, it's in the north. It's in Grevin. So you actually see the little village there, or Gervin, sorry.
Why wouldn't they color them differently? I don't understand.
Yeah, so you can see in the center there's Hermitage. That's that beautiful big south-facing hill. Well, it's big, but it's not that big if we're talking about a whole appellation.
It's not a big wine region.
No, it's tiny. And then Croz's Hermitage, you can see goes kind of north, it goes east, it goes south. But this specific plot is on really steep terraced hillsides in the north by the town of Gervin. Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting stuff because some people are even going back and saying, oh, people were talking about this vineyard in the 20s and the 30s as being so special. So I was keen to try it because I've not had this wine. And I think this, if all the hype lives up to it, this could be a really great value opportunity to
like it's got the density of the Cote Rôtie of the Levée, but like it's got some kind of electricity kind of thing. I don't know. It's delicious.
This is also average 70-year-old vines in the vineyard. So old vines, which is pretty cool.
Jake, are you happy with this one? No.
My favorite by far. It just has layers and it opens up and it changes and it's interesting. And like we discussed earlier, fruity wine, especially for people that drink as much wine as we do, is boring. So we look for the other things, and this has a lot of the other things. So it's a very cerebral wine that just makes you want to smell it and try to figure out all of the different things that are there. So I really enjoy this wine.
Is it what you would expect from a Croz's Hermitage?
No.
Not a chance.
I think that was in unison, Jake.
I mean, look, when you're looking for Northern Rhone and you are going to, like a lower entry point, like you're going to like the lowest wine that money can buy. You are going to Croz's Hermitage or you're going to Saint Joseph. Like that's how that works. So I guess that was the sort of why we were so emphatic about that. The answer to that question was that you can get in those regions where you can get lower priced wines. There is a distrust in the quality, that there's no bargains in the Northern Rhone. It's money and concentration, or insipid and cheap. And so this one, I think, I don't know, like just under $100. But it's up there for pros, but at the same time, you get the Alangrillo, that's like $45, $46. I mean, that's a solid producer. Like you just need to find it. But winemaking, what do we think? What's our guesses? Sam?
Well, I cheated in that I was super curious about where this was in Crow's Hermitage, so looked it up. So yeah, mute me and talk to Jake.
I think there is carbonic fermentation. I think the stems were really ripe, but it's not completely defining the wine, but I think it's there. I don't see any new oak on the wine, but I wouldn't be surprised if they have a small amount. Actually, no, I don't think there's any oak on the wine.
Were we right, Sam? Were we right?
So here's what I find crazy about this wine now that I'm tasting it, is that of the 4 winemakers we're tasting today, this is the only producer that regularly destems. So Levay, Faury, and when we get to the Pacolet, all typically use at least some portion of whole cluster. Apparently in 18, because it was warm, they got really ripe stems and used some, so that, who knows, they might, you know, in some vintages and not in others. But yeah, to your point, Jake, almost no oak whatsoever, all larger barrels, and he only gets new barrels after 7, 8, 9 years when a barrel is a little beat up and needs replacing. So
Eventually.
yeah, it's less than 5% in any given year. So
Tasty. And I get the density, like there's density there, and I think like everyone block your ears, but like a few years would do this wine a lot of justice. But I mean, never mind, pouring it in little pouches. We know how controversial that is. So this is fun, and like not the Syrah that I thought it would be. I didn't like when in my head when I think of like amazing Syrah, I don't sort of think to this, but this is delivering on everything that I like.
So Nick, what do you typically think, or what do you typically expect yourself in Crow's Hermitage, and how does this differ for you?
Oh, why are you asking me questions?
I'm hijacking.
Works. That's a good question. Look, without like, there's no escaping the fact that like when I look for a Crow's Hermitage, I do want something on the lower side of the price spectrum. Like I can convince people to buy expensive wines, but I also always want to look for regions that can still deliver on less expensive wines, because that's what I want. Would I ever order this? Would I ever order Crow's Hermitage at a restaurant? Absolutely not. 100%. Wouldn't even bother. It's just because you get that large spectrum, it's such a risk. Like you don't know whether you're overpaying for something or not paying for something. So
I mean, if someone said, Nick, would you like to drink 2005 Lagui Road from Alain Gréau right now in a restaurant, you'd probably buy it.
Yeah. There are 3 restaurants in the province that have it on their wine list, and I'm not in any of them. But I understand what you're saying, and like,
no, the variability is. I mean,
and like that's a level of like insecurity that I mean, as someone who sells wine literally for a living, even there are regions, and Northern Rhone is one of them, where I'm very uncertain as to what I'm buying and if I'm paying the right amount of money for what I should be getting in the glass. And that's where it does come down to asking the right questions, which I never do, and knowing producers and remembering producers, which I'm really bad at. So, you know, I don't know, is Jake, Sam, are there like, do you have hot tips for like the audience to know like how you navigate Syrah? Easy question. I don't know. I'm sorry.
What'd you say, Jake?
A lot of it. That's experience, I think, goes a long way with it. But No, it's I've had a lot of bad Syrah and I've had a lot of good Syrah, so it's tough to answer. You just got to know your producers, and I mean maybe stick one or two.
If you had a Gros Hermitage by the glass at a restaurant, a producer you didn't familiar with, would you buy it?
Probably not. I mean, also, I'll just say, like, if I'm going by the glass, like, I just want shitty, honest wine. I I mean that sincerely, like.
Right. When you come to Peter Pan.
No, but like, I just mean like
honest wine.
You know, at the end of the day, like, I don't want something that is trying to be more than what it is. If it's just a modest country wine, then be a modest country wine and charge me a modest country price for the beverage, and that I'm delighted, right? Yeah, by the glass, I typically just go for something that I assume will be cheap and free of oak additives and hopefully high in acid and reasonably delicious.
Okay, Jake, this is the trick question, and I've already told you what the question is, but how would you rank personally in your soul the appellations of the Northern Rhone? Like, what is your favorite to the least favorite?
Tea first.
Mm-hmm.
I like when I can afford it. Hermitage, but again, I only had a handful of producers just because it's so expensive. So it's tough. I enjoy Cornas a lot. In fact, some of my favorites come from there just because I like the meatiness. And then afterwards, you have Saint Joseph and Gros Hermitage. So I don't know which one I would put as last place between the two, considering it's really producer dependent. But yeah, that's the way.
Sambo, talk to me. Appellations, rank them now.
Yeah, okay. I'll have Côte Rôtie at the top, and then I'll actually have Cornas after, only because for me if we're talking about like Jean-Louis Chaves Hermitage, okay, that's one of the greatest wines in the world, but after that, there's a lot of négociants there, so people that are, making good wines, but maybe underperforming with the quality of vineyard they have. And then Gros and Saint Joseph, it goes back to kind of what we're saying. Where are you in the appellation? What kind of producer are you? What's your winemaking style? It's come up quite a bit in the chat from Rachel, but to the very north of Côte Rôtie is Collines Rhodanienne, an area that the Romans loved, but kind of stopped being planted because it was too difficult to work and you couldn't really get a return for your wine. So there's a lot of really good value, and there's a lot of really good producers who are making Collines Rhodanienne. If you can't afford Jamet's Côte Rôtie, try their Collines Rhodanienne because it's really fucking delicious.
That's a hot tip. Like, there are a lot of great producers who make wines in that region or like label those wines. So like, start there if you want to like explore these amazing producers who honestly no one can afford. It's tricky to buy.
And we're
saying to buy Jamet, to buy Sharp, like.
And we're about to taste Cornas, and like talk about an appellation that took off. I mean, when I first started studying wine in Toronto, you could buy Cornas for 40, 45, 50 bucks. Now you can't buy Cornas for less than 75, 80, because Noël Verset or Auguste Clapp or Thierry Almond or whoever, all of these kind of cult producers that have just blown up. Now it's like, oh, I'd love to taste those wines. You're like, cool. They don't exist. And if they do, it's 500 USD a bottle or whatever, right? So I'm constantly trying to find value in the Northern Rhone. And I can't remember what you said the price on Wine 3 is, but for Gros, it's so good.
over 100, over 100. And it's hard, but like, I mean, you kind of have to like. Northern Rhone's always going to be hard for a lot of reasons, you know, and it's always like the wine. It is dense and full of lots of things you have to unpack and you have to understand. And this is a really great metaphor. With age, you begin to have experience and understand and be able to unpack and decipher Northern Rhone a bit more. And you're right. Like I think you have to, you know, there is always a commitment and there's always a price to pay to taste these wines like this. And sometimes it's money, sometimes it's getting it served in a little cup. But having to listen to us clowns talk about it. But you know, that's what happens. But before we taste from us, because that's what we're all talking about, time for cheers. The time
Yay!
we all tune in for.
Jake, what did you find in Orangeville? Do you have any Baby Bell? Any?
Well, actually, they have a cheese board on the menu for room service, but I don't know if I'm going to risk it considering the hotel doesn't look very busy. So yeah.
While I talk about cheese, Jacob, I challenge you to pick up your phone and order room service over top of me talking, because I think that's well picking my point. Friends, I'm ordering.
Oh God, don't die.
I'm eating no food.
I'd like to order some room service, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Your room number 159?
Room number 159, and I just like a cheese board, please.
Just the cheese board.
Yes, please.
Okay, no problem.
All right.
It should be about 20 minutes.
Thank you.
They've got to make the cheese first, Jake. So 20.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous.
It'll be fun. By the end of the show, we'll have a cheese board, which is delicious. I'm having that good.
So we'll see.
Ontario cheesemaker. A little unsure, but this is smoked, delicious. Sam, what are you eating?
I got a little bit of Tom, which is pretty classic. Tom d'Auvergne. It's actually, the fresh stuff is used in pomme aligot, which if you've never had, you're not living. It's basically mashed potatoes meets fondue. But this is the kind of more aged version of it. So hopefully it tastes pretty good with the Syrah. We'll see.
This is delicious. I didn't try it with any wine. What if other people are eating cheese right now? Shout out on the chat. Yeah. It's a good. I think it's a truffle gouda. Yeah, that's absolutely a really good. Yeah, these are delicious.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah, there you go. Some Tom. But the Canadian version, the 1/4 there, which is really good. Oh, smoked cacio cavallo. Yeah, did you, Nick, your cheese isn't smoked, right?
Yeah, it is smoked.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It's smoked mountain oak, which I think for an Ontario cheese, this is delicious. I was a bit confused because as I was telling Sam before, like I was sure mountain oak was in Ontario, but I was also sure that Gouda was a protected cheese, Dutch cheese, and I learned something today that mountain oak is in Netherlands. No, that Gouda is not a protected name. So that's super interesting.
Goddamn Canadian cheesemakers clogging up the Gouda market.
So much confusion on the market. Where's my Gouda from? Is it from Ontario? Brampton Gouda? This is just terrible. Okay, enough chit chat. We've got to kill some time before the Jake's cheese board comes, but let's talk about wine number 4. The wine that no one asked for. Elite Collect on us 2017. This is my Philip Packard story. He once ate eggs Benedict in my restaurant. I ordered some from Domaine.na. Because who knows that line very well. And then I fed him. Then he asked for a sweet wine, and I gave him some Petit Mansan from New Zealand.
Oh.
Which was
Forget me and my stupid classic chat of Curacao. Who was sorry, we don't need to talk about this now. From New Zealand.
We do. I forget. It's Marlborough producer. I forget. Churton.
I saw Rachel in the chat there. She's on it.
Yeah, Churton. That's the only bottle I've ever opened, ever sold. I probably didn't charge him because I was a nice person. So the only time I've ever tasted the Churton Petit Mansan, I don't know why I bought it. I was silly. I was stupid. Yeah, that's what I do. So that's my Philippe story. Jacob, talk me through this Cornas. What am I tasting? What am I feeling? What emotions are in my head?
Well, it's compared to the two we had earlier, it's a lot cleaner, which is not what I usually expect from Cornas. It's usually the opposite. Usually the Cornas tends to be the meatier, more savory one, but I find this to be a very, very clean wine. Classic pepper, classic black raspberry Chambord, and yeah, it's a beautiful example of Cornas.
Dan, talk to me. What do you feel like? This Cornas is the slightly darker pink that's on the screen right now. Like that? No, I'm not saying that. Wait, am I?
Yeah, so I mean the southernmost Syrah producing area in the Rhone, in the northern Rhone rather, and the smallest appellation, also 100% Syrah. Like actually, I think all of the wines we're tasting tonight are 100%. But my personal take on it is like I'm a little bit surprised in having some of Pacalé's other wines. For those who don't know, he's based in Burgundy. All of his wines come from Burgundy and Beaujolais, but this is the one wine he makes outside of it. And I find his wines have a sameness to them because of such a staunch winemaking approach that he takes. But I mean, this is like very varietally Syrah to me. This tastes more like Syrah than it tastes like Pacalet, if that makes sense.
Well, for someone who's considered like a wild Burgundian winemaker, to go into the wildest French appellation, like if there's one descriptor or there's words to describe Cornas, it's the wildest, like untamed Syrah you could ever have. Like this is pretty like mellow. I don't know, like it's delicious. And
it's kind of elegant
but it's like elegant Cornas, which is kind of an oxymoron if you know anything. Like I mean, if you've ever tasted Cornas, like no one does. But I think it's kind of fun. But man, like on the back end. But yeah. I mean, this is the most expensive wine by far. This is $200 a bottle. Like it's a strange wine. In that it's a Burgundian, a winemaker based in Burgundy, famous for Burgundy, who has these satellite kind of wines that he makes outside of Burgundy. This being probably the most famous, or like one of them. Yeah, that's super great. I mean, it's
I find it's delicious. I find it's very balanced. Like it's the most balanced wine in the lineup as well, and out of all of them, I think it's going to have the longest lifespan. Like it's just got this beautiful acidity that just stays with you. And no, I really, if I were to have any of these in a blind tasting, I think the last one is the one that screams Syrah right away.
Yeah, well, it certainly screams whole cluster. Which if I'm not
drinkable, like I'm really happy drinking this. Like I think it's not too dense. It's not too like concentrated. Like you're getting flavors. Like
Yeah. One thing I'll say is you certainly, I mean, the structure in this wine is present. The tannins have this kind of like lingering, bitter, tactile quality to them, and the acid is quite pronounced, which I think are great and great for longevity, of course. I think it maybe lacks a little bit of the density that wines 1 and 3 had. But I'm this is the first time I've had this wine, so I'm really impressed at how Northern Rhone Syrah it tastes, and not how Philippe Paquelet it tastes. And I know I said that already, but it's.
And look, Philippe Paquelet is like a really strange winemaker in that he's based in Burgundy, but his heart has always been in Beaujolais. Like that's where he. I mean, I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's like consistently like that's where his passion is, in Beaujolais. And when you think Beaujolais and Northern Rhone, like they're right next to each other and like literally neighbors, cheek to cheek. So like you can see the dots are, it's not as crazy as like it seems on paper for someone famous for making like old school Burgundy to then have this like this wine from Cornell. But I really liked it.
Yeah, it's cool, and I see some people chiming in the chat there. Paquelet, I think, is Marcel Lapierre's nephew. So he obviously has a
this is a photo of me on the internet, on Instagram, with me and Philippe Paquelet talking. I'm not going to find it on my phone right now. That's 100% rude. So I'm going to put my phone.
Yeah.
Jacob, what was your favorite, excluding the wine that you just put in a glass?
3 and 4 for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I like 3 for the complexity and the non-fruity aromas that are just, the list is getting longer. I like 4 for its elegance and how beautiful it is in its winemaking. It's clean, it's elegant, it's very well balanced, it's concentrated. So those are my 2 favorites for different reasons.
Sambo, talk to me.
I mean, this is really a win-win-win-win in that we're all drinking Northern Rhone Syrah. So, I mean, I really like wine number 1 because I think 10, 15 years down the road, it's going to be an absolute banger. But right now, it's tight and dense and closed. 2, I love because it's like, it's certainly got substance and depth, but it's the most approachable and accessible of the wines we tasted. 4's elegance is like very cliche to say, but it is Burgundian in that it's very balanced and it's almost sneaky how complex the wine is. Because it's not a big bruiser, you don't really maybe immediately recognize how much is going on. But I love wine 3. Like, I don't know, there's the density of fruit there. That's another wine I want to see. It has the really animal, meaty, gamey side of Syrah I love. And I think with a little bit of age, it could be special. So I don't know, they're all great wines. You did a banging job.
Thank you. I made them all myself. Thank you, but thank you for the credit, but I didn't do anything. I also feel like we could do this session every week and with 4 different wines and have a completely different conversation. And I think that's the beauty of Northern Rhone when we talk about like Syrah and we talk like, we all like wax lyrical and we all like go gaga for like having a great bottle of Syrah. But the reality, like this is a really good example of 4 delicious wines that, to be honest, I picked without ever tasting them. I did my research. I picked wines that had a really interesting thing to say and cool winemaking. But, you know, this is the beauty of the Northern Rhone, is that you can have this journey and this exploration, and it will pay off for you. It will cost money, like everything. There is no bargains in the Northern Rhone. Everything is completely relative, but I think it's a super delicious. It was a super delicious lineup, and I was really, really worried that these wines weren't going to hold up. And they demonstrated that being in a palace for a few days is absolutely fine. And like, I was super excited. My favorite wine was probably four, in that, like, it was always the wine that I chose. It's been on my shelf for the longest, and I bought it because I wanted to like do something silly. And silliness doesn't necessarily mean a bad choice, and I think this was a great choice. And would I pay $200 for this bottle of wine? Yeah. And would I enjoy it? Yes. But that's just Northern Rhone. Like, I know the variables. I know why it costs this much, and I know that it's not an overpriced wine. It is an expensive wine. So I was really excited, and I really thank you both for joining me. I had a lot of fun, and this was super interesting. Before we sort of wrap it up, a few things to say. Thanks to the sponsors who gave their money to allow 4 people to attend tonight. Everyone, I can't bother saying people's names. They're there, they know who they are. People who got a free ticket know who they are. I really am happy that everyone got to like participate in this, and this was super delicious. Yes, I am drawing it out to hope that the cheese plate arrives, but I can't control that, and I've got things to do. And finally, I wanted to just say happy birthday to Emily. We all wish her a happy birthday. It's her birthday on Saturday.
I'm tired of wishing her a happy birthday. Oh,
Happy birthday, Emma McLean. You deserve every beautiful wine wheel. Yeah, I don't have time anymore. I'm really busy now. You all keep buying wine and keep me up at night, worrying about if your deliveries are going to get to your house. And I apologize. It stresses me out. I don't have a wine wheel. Everyone just can come to wine. Speaking of, buy a ticket to Wine Cruise Austria. You'll get a discount code. So go crazy. There's some fun wines. Sam, you have the 2013 Judith Beck La Franchiche.
Judith.
It's a delicious wine.
Yeah, I mean, I zoned out there for a second because I was reading the chat, but I assume you wanted me to say Austrian wines are awesome?
Yeah, we've got Emmerich Knoll, we've got Altsinger Smaragd, we've got Malat, Jacob's favorite Austrian winemaker, Malat. We've got the Saint Laurent from Rabel, which is Christina Roman's favorite, Ollie's favorite wine. I'm always confused when she talks about it. And we've got the 2013 Judith Beck Blanc Frankish Altenburg, which is a super rare wine, and we'll be literally pouring out the last 9 bottles that I have. So it's super fun to do. And then before I didn't really officially announce on Instagram, but I'm going to do sake on March 9th, which I'm super excited about. People who know me know that Rachel and I have been studying sake over February, and this is me putting my money where my mouth is. And we're going to be, I'm basing the tasting around 4 like noble rice varietals, and we're going to taste some really great examples of these really cool rice varietals: Omachi, Wata Ribene, Yamada-Nishiki, and Miyama-Nishiki. And I think that's going to be super fun. So please tune in for both of them because they're going to be super fun. And I mean, I like pouring good wine, so it's not like you're not going to get your money's worth. So Jacob, Sam, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for tasting these wines. I'm really sorry, everyone, that you didn't get your cheese plate. Honestly, I'm not going
to. Because I don't know what's going on.
So I wish I could report back, but there's a chance that I'm not going to remember this.
Is it possible for Jake to post something after the fact so he can see what was on his cheese board?
Yes. If Jacob, send me a photo of your cheese board, text it to me. I will post it on the Peter Pantry Instagram account. I will get lots
Deal.
of text messages from the owner asking
Nice.
what are you doing? But I'm doing this for you. So don't forget that. But please tune in next week. As always, Sam, thank you. Jacob, thank you. We've taken up enough of your time. I really enjoyed tonight's tasting. I hope you all did too. And we'll see you in March.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for the wicked awesome wine.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Awesome, Nick. Thank you.
great women's Masters women's month, and we're gonna do some cool things. And we're gonna have some fun, and no more boys on the channel. No more boys.
Bye.
We should have 2 more boys. Bye everybody. Have a lovely night, and we'll see you in Austria next week. Ciao.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Oh, Jacob, you're the host now. Bye.
See ya.